And Frames Per Second Optimizer analyzes your hardware and builds custom game settings to maximize frame rates. Learn how AI-driven optimization works and why manual tweaking falls short. And Frames Per Second Optimizer is software that maps your PC's hardware specifications to optimal in-game settings. It identifies your GPU model, VRAM capacity, CPU core count, and system memory, then cross-references that data against performance benchmarks for the games you play. The output is a custom settings profile, texture quality, shadow detail, anti-aliasing method, render scale, calibrated to push your frame rate as high as possible without sacrificing visual fidelity where it matters. The best optimizers go deeper than the in-game graphics menu. They adjust Windows registry entries that control GPU scheduling, modify game config files to disable unnecessary background processes, and apply driver-level tweaks that most players never know. Manual frames per second optimization means loading a game, changing one setting, restarting the level, checking the frame counter, then repeating 30 more times. Most players give up after 3 attempts and settle for medium across the board, a guaranteed way to leave performance on the table. The problem isn't effort, it's that settings interact. Lowering shadow quality might free GPU resources, but if your CPU is already maxed on draw calls, you gain nothing. Only testing combinations reveals the real bottlenecks. An automated frames per second optimizer eliminates the guesswork by running cross-reference performance data from thousands of hardware configs. It knows that an AMD Ryzen 7 9800 EX3D paired with an RX. Not all frames per second optimizers are built the same. Legacy tools from 2023 offered basic game booster scripts that closed background apps and set windows to high performance mode. Marginal gains at best. The 2026 standard is AI-driven analysis that adapts to your hardware in real time and regenerates settings when game patches or driver updates change the performance landscape. Hardware detection. Automatic identification of GPU model, VRAM, CPU, RAM capacity, and display resolution to build the baseline profile. Game-specific tuning. Custom playbooks for each title, not one-size-fits-all configs. A Warzone optimizer differs from a Cyberpunk 2077 optimizer because the engines prioritize different resources. Patch tracking. Settings that worked in the performance delta between unoptimized and properly tuned settings varies by hardware tier and game engine. Entry-level GPUs see the largest relative gains because they're closest to minimum spec. Every freed resource counts. High-end systems still benefit, but the percentage uplift is smaller because they're already running near the engine's frame cap. Measured benchmarks from independent testers show consistent results. An RTX 4060 running Warzone at 1080p medium averaged 87 frames per second stock. After applying a hardware-specific playbook that reduced shadow cascades, disabled ambient occlusion, and lowered texture streaming to match the 8GB VRAM limit, the same system hit 142 frames per second, a 63% gain with minimal visual downgrade. The jump from rule-based to AI-driven frames per second optimization happened between late 2025 and early 2026. Rule-based tools followed static lookup tables. If GPU equals RTX 5070, set textures equals high, shadows equals medium. That worked when games updated quarterly. Modern AAA titles patch every 3 to 4 weeks, and each patch shifts the performance profile. A February hotfix might optimize CPU draw calls, making high shadow quality viable on systems that previously bottlenecked. Static rules miss these shifts. AI-driven optimizers ingest live benchmark data from player reports and professional testers, then adapt recommendations in real time. When Cyberpunk 2077's 2.3 patch improved DLSS4 integration in March 2026, AI tools immediately updated. The frames per second optimizer market split into 3 tiers in 2026: free generic boosters that close background apps, paid rule-based tools with game-specific presets, and AI-driven platforms that generate custom playbooks per hardware config. Free boosters deliver 5 to 10 frames per second at most. Useful, but limited. Paid rule-based tools offer 15 to 25 frames per second if your hardware matches their preset brackets. AI-driven optimizers extract 30 to 80 frames per second by tailoring every setting to your exact components. Verify hardware detection accuracy. The optimizer must correctly identify your GPU model, including VRAM, CPU, and RAM. Misidentification leads to wrong settings and worse performance. Check game library coverage. Confirm the tool supports the titles you play. A Valorant optimizer? Build your free playbook for any GPU at betterfps.com/optimize.